Hey everybody, we're going to jump right in with one of the activities that we learned about in the program that we researched. It's called the name game, and it's just really simple. We're just all going to say our names and what our names mean if we know. So, I can't see anybody's names, so why don't you guys just all go?
All right, so my name's Brad, and after not knowing what it meant for about 28 years now, I finally Googled it to find out what it means, and I'm not happy about this at all. Brad means a small wire nail. So, and I don't know what to do with that information, but I've met a lot of Brads now that I know that, I guess I don't know. So I'll
That's
pass it
Is
on
it
to
fitting? Do you
doesn't
feel
doesn't
like when you meet other Brads that you're like, yeah, that makes sense?
Uh, can I defer that to never answering it? But yes, sure. The Brads tend to
That's
do
fair.
small wire nails. Yeah.
all right.
right.
Who wants to go?
I'll go next. Mine's pretty simple. My name's Lily, and it's a flower.
Not fair.
Awesome. My name is Daisy. It's a flower as well.
My name's Megan. I just looked it up, and it means pearl.
Oh, that's cool.
I actually know what mine means. I don't know why. I looked it up a long time ago, but my name's Tiffany and it means the face of God, which is a lot to carry. So thanks, Mom. But yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Tessa, what does your name mean?
So my name, so I looked it up because I didn't know when we did our practice run, but like my first name means, depending on where you go, it means fourth child or to gather or to reap. So there you go.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Very cool.
Mhm.
I think we can move on to the next slide.
Perfect.
So, we're all working in groups and everything, so just some things to consider. The details and process of a specific program. The one that we're going to be looking at is about Chinese immigrants. But before we do that, let's just take a moment to think about the communities we've been a part of and joining new communities and how that feels and what makes it feel good and what makes it feel awkward. Can anybody think of an example of a new community? I was just thinking about this class and how this class has been a little stressful and we've all kind of pulled together, but can you guys think of any other communities and that you've joined maybe in the last couple of years or?
yeah, I guess so I'm a social worker at the hospital in the town that I live at, and we are a community of social workers. It runs pretty deep with what we do. We lean on each other all the time. And, it's hard sometimes for doctors and nurses to really understand why we're there and what we're there for. But yeah, we are definitely our own little community.
That's really cool. Do you remember when you first joined it? What made it feel good or uncomfortable or?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting to be in this field because we're all kind of the same people, because we do this work. And so it was definitely I found my tribe of people, even though they're all older than me, but they were very welcoming and very much this is who we are, this is what we do, and we will never let you be by yourself in this position. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
I'm sure that felt really good. I can relate with my
For sure.
practicum now for sure. It's
was
good.
just
Does
gonna
anybody
say-
else have anything they want to share?
I was gonna say practicum. That was interesting because, coming in as a student, feeling uncomfortable with what you can bring to the team.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really nervous. Are they gonna think that, I don't know anything, so I don't belong here? But they were super welcoming and it's been a great experience. So
That's awesome. Okay, well, let's just jump into learning about this program that we learned about. Just the Parents Beyond Oceans, a support group for Chinese immigrants.
Can we introduce ourselves since we all know each other's names now?
All right. So, let's see. Brad, was I going first or were you going first? Sorry.
You were going first.
Perfect. All right. So Sunset Park is located, it's in Brooklyn, New York, and it's the largest Chinese population and the largest Chinatown in New York. And so 1/4 of the population is Chinese, and they are the most, and the Asians in that city are the most likely of any racial groups to live in poverty. So the Center for Family Life operates in Sunset Park, and they do counseling services, casework, advocacy. It's like their social work home essentially, and they do like recreation for families and do housing services and assistance. They just do all sorts of assistance that they can, and they are the ones who developed the Parents Beyond Oceans support group to address like social, cultural, and lingual needs.
So, quick little background, right? It was introduced in New York in 2011. New York is made up of 5 boroughs. Does anybody know the 5 boroughs? I know we might not be from the East Coast, but a little curious if the group knows what the 5 boroughs are.
Okay, there's Queens.
Correct.
Okay, Lily.
Long Island? No.
Brooklyn?
Brooklyn is 1. You have Queens, Brooklyn.
The Bronx?
Bronx is 3.
Oh, good. Oh man, Lily's just getting it.
We have
I
Law
don't
and
know.
Order here.
You can do it. You
Talk
got
about
2 more.
Is New York? Never mind. Staten Island.
There you go. Pete Davidson. There you go. Come on, keep it going. 1 more.
Lily, you're carrying
This
this.
is the
week, I have
easiest
no
one.
idea.
This is the easiest one.
like New York City proper.
Manhattan, but nice try.
Okay.
Here you go.
Oh,
Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island. All right, so back to the Parents Beyond Oceans. Good job. I appreciate that. This was designed so parents can share and process their immigration stories and the trauma associated with that process. I don't know if anybody here has been to New York, but there is a little island near the Statue of Liberty, excuse me, called Ellis Island. And some of the immigration stories from that are troubling. So obviously immigration can leave some trauma. The goals of this group, right, Parents Beyond Oceans, are to help the Chinese parents connect with their children and feel more involved within their community, to reduce isolation and build community and create solidarity within the group.
All right, and these are just some risk factors. So I'll let Daisy take over from there.
Yep. So Chinese immigrants are at high risk for suffering from poor mental health, migration stress, and intergenerational stress. They experience cultural differences in parenting styles and expectations. And they also have limited access to like supports. And they might suffer from language barriers. So.
All right. And there are benefits to like support groups for Chinese immigrants specifically. And so through the Parents Beyond Oceans group, it approaches members from a strength-based and empowerment perspective instead of like a weakness-based area. And it focuses on building trust, vulnerability, and problem-solving skills, especially within the group, so they can take those skills further out and build a community with people that they've met and like interacted with after that transition process to coming to the US. And it addresses the migration journey and allows for just building a hopeful future. And so processing is super important as well, especially when it comes to like trauma and adjusting through trauma that they may have experienced in the migration process.
Right, so what about the overview of the group? I'm sure we've all been in a group. The program's outreach was done through social workers and staff at the Center for Family Life, right? Outreach and social workers might be synonymous at this point. Some referrals were made through government agencies or other communal resources, or maybe even word of mouth. The members who participate in the support groups are obviously Chinese immigrant parents and grandparents from the Sunset Park area of Brooklyn. The group aims to have around 8 to 10 members. Keeping the group small and connected is an important factor in this process. It attracts more female participants from mothers and grandmothers than men. The center offers free meals and childcare while the sessions take place.
So in order to like set up the group, they have a series of steps they take. The first one is they hire 2 bilingual instructors. And they, let's see, to accommodate the group, meetings are held at like health centers and schools in Sunset Park. They meet weekly for 10 weeks. The sessions are 1.5 to 2 hours long. Each session begins with inquiries on how the members participated in self-care during the week. And then the facilitator transitions into a weekly activity focused on empowerment. And the sessions end with processing the session by encouraging members to share their feelings and wishes.
All right. And so, like, their starting tasks. So, at the beginning of the sessions, the focus is on introductions and just going over the purpose of the group, establishing norms, and just kind of like encouraging group cohesiveness. The beginning session specifically goes over the importance of trust and creating a safe place for group members to like express their feelings. And so the first session included the name game, which is like where we kind of did it, at the beginning of ours, just to kind of, get to help people connect and also maybe connect with others who like from their origin, like their country of origin and some of those, roots that they have. And then they will, during the first session, create a briefcase to represent what brought them to the US, and it reflects on Eastern values that they brought with them. And they decorate it and they use it throughout the sessions to emphasize connections to like traditional values and to pick out like what Western values they appreciate that they encounter during their journey into a new life here, essentially.
Okay, yeah. So in the second group, they do an interesting activity, which we can't do over Zoom, but it would be interesting to do over Zoom. Getting to know yourself and the other people in the group by using the East and West maps on that briefcase, correct, right? So they encourage group connection, and the members are given a string to place on a map while they tell their migration story. So what you end up getting is that lovely world map with some string, hopefully connecting people to their location where they came from. This obviously is going to be important for building group cohesion, and it may even dive into some trauma possibly related to maybe the immigration in. And then the second or the third session, they do a cultural special object. So obviously we talked about our names. So Daisy, do you have anything that reminds you of your name?
I guess just the flower.
Okay, Lily, do you have anything that reminds you of your name?
Wow, yeah, probably the flower. Also,
like a physical object is more what I'm getting.
oh, okay. A physical object that reminds me of my name.
So for instance, like behind every painting hung in my room is a small Brad. The wire nail.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're fine. I'm trying to think of if there's an object. I think just like if I go outside and I see lilies, or like on Valentine's Day when the stores are full of like bouquets with roses and lilies, and then I'm like, hey, that's me.
Okay, cool. All right, so obviously the members share objects from their home that reminds them of their identity and where they came from and their cultural background, or maybe even some values. Facilitators are supposed to ask clarifying questions, right? Get more involved as to what these objects represent for everybody in the group, and obviously to build some rapport within the people of the group.
So during sessions 4 and 5, members are encouraged to reflect on traditional values from their childhood. These values are written on butcher paper and shared with the group. The leaders facilitate a discussion on how these values affected the members as children. The members then choose 5 cultural values from the list to add to their briefcase. In the 5th session, the same activity is repeated using U.S. Western values, and members are encouraged to identify values that they appreciate and want to incorporate with themselves and their families.
And now in 6 and 7, they kind of focus on like starting to integrate some of those values. So group members are asked to record 10 descriptions of themselves using both Eastern and Western values that they like have encountered in their lives. And then they share the descriptions with the support group. And then they are asked to find one aspect of their life that they want to improve on. And during 7, this task continues by making a staircase, like on paper, in which the group members assess the steps needed to meet the new goals, and they are asked to draw from their personal strengths and values from the previous session as inspiration to help meet their future goals.
So leading up to the last sessions, 8 and 9, right? In 8, the group collaborates and expresses common obstacles they encounter. Obviously, we all like to complain at some point and do it in a group form. Brings us together. I know it does when I do that. This helps create a sense of community and support among one another. In the 9th session, facilitators, along with the group members, create a positive inventory checklist where they record positive traits, and they have the group share their lists and encourage that the members comment and add to their traits of their peers, right? Like a pit and a peak, in a sense, is what the two final groups are like.
So the final session is kind of a celebration where everybody comes together to focus on their success and just reflect on personal growth. And they're encouraged to like bring a dish for a potluck, just kind of like to represent how far they've come. And so that's pretty cool. And if they were able to like come and participate in most, I think it's like 8 of the 10 sessions, they get to graduate. So they get like a little graduation certificate.
All right. And so when evaluating Parents Beyond Oceans, 2 anonymous pre-test and post-test assessments were used to determine just the effectiveness of the group. One was designed by the Center of Family Life, so the social work home that made the group, and the other one was the social support scale, which is created by Helen and Prociando. Sorry if I did say that wrong. I apologize. And they were given at the end of the first session and the very beginning of the last session. The assessment given from the Center for Family Life focused on determining if there was a reduction in torn identities from Eastern and Western culture, and the social support scale focused just on feelings of connectedness and creating that support community within the group and also maybe the outer community.
All right, just some of the results from those surveys, right? Between the pre and post surveys, the average score on the Center for Family Life scale increased on average by about 14%, 13.64. The second most positive change on the pre and post surveys was the belief that they should be treated with respect and equal treatment in the U.S. This concept increased from 18.18% on the pre-test score. Results demonstrated that the group members could utilize new strategies to address raising bicultural children in the U.S. and adapting to life here in America. The greatest change occurred in feeling less homesick and isolated. Members were able to build connections with one another and establish their own social media groups to continue the support.
All right.
Daisy.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have this one on my list. All right, limitations of the study. So the Center for Family Life was unable to determine the group's long-term impact, which is pretty significant. The center's facilitators and staff are also limited in their understanding of written Chinese. So this could have influenced the pre and post-test accuracy. They also distributed the assessment. So the people who taught it were the ones handing out the assessments, and that could have resulted in dishonest answers. So that's kind of unfortunate. The facilitators were unable to determine why some people chose to drop out of group attendance because they just didn't come back. And then the center scale has also not been statistically validated.
All right. And so just some connections to class material that we've been reading in our textbook. Group work is efficient. It provides a sense of commonality. It offers a great variety of resources and viewpoints, promotes a sense of belonging, as we can see that this group specifically definitely tried to help create a sense of community beyond just having the group. And it allows for individuals to practice skills in a safe place. It provides opportunities for feedback from other members and maybe for learning, because you just learn from each other and get ideas, and it helps strengthen commitment just through accountability.
So one of the references to another case study from the class, one of the other groups had an article based on improvisation. I think this concept could be useful in the Parents Beyond Borders, or Parents Beyond Oceans, group. Improvisation can help participants develop skills such as active listening, risk-taking, group mind, and community engagement. By utilizing improvisation as a means of liberation, group workers can help members more fully express themselves and experience the power of mutual aid and action. A lot of the groups were obviously scripted in a sense where they had something to do. I think having a group where you don't exactly have something to do can be pretty powerful in the sense of everybody's coming together, but what are they going to bring when there's nothing planned? And I think that could be moving in that sense. So that was our connection to another case study.
All right. So now just when talking about integrating Parents Beyond Oceans with the practicum experience, consider just like for a second what populations you are working with. how do you think that we can improve cultural competency, knowledge, and practice of group work and strengths-based perspective, social support, all those really important factors when we're working with our groups? And I like to think about not only just my practicum, but like when I'm planning this group with the group that we're doing for an assignment too. It's just like, how can we just improve that to help our cultural competency and help it apply to everyone? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's hear some answers. What do you guys think?
Can I just say first that I feel like this would be really beneficial for our Native American population,
Mm-hmm.
like reconnecting with culture. And I mean, we have so many students that, could do this as well in a school setting. So I just thought about that.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I work with primarily Spanish speaking community members at my normal job, not so much in my practicum because I'm not client facing in practicum right now, but in my normal job, I carry a caseload of 100% immigrants, mostly from Mexico, but some other Latin American countries too. And I think something for like cultural humility and all of that is just a lot of self-reflection, because there's so much bias that's like built into the way when you're raised in the United States. It's just built into our society, and kind of unlearning things that society has taught us, and doing like a lot of self-reflection and knowing your own biases is really important to better serve whichever group you're working with.
Yeah, and I think that point actually leads really good into the second question. How do you think that when you examine your biases and the systematic biases that exist, like how does that affect the individuals we work with and benefit them?
I think, can I answer?
Yeah, no, I was encouraging that. Sorry.
Okay, cool. I think that when you, at least for me, like when I look at the whole picture, if I just look at the individual and I look at, their demographics on paper and stuff like that, and I don't hear, their story or all the things, all the social determinants of health that could be affecting them, all the barriers that are up systemically, things like that. If I don't consider all of those things and then also acknowledge, like, I'm human. So of course there's things that are going to trigger me or from my past experiences or things that I've thought I knew. And if I don't, really like critically think about those things, then I think it puts up a barrier to like forming a true connection with somebody. So when I like self-reflect and like take a step back and try to, put myself in their shoes or just remind myself like I don't know what that feels like, so I can't judge, then it allows for like a better, truer connection.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
rapport and truly leading to like understanding and empathy, you'd say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think on that point, with what Lily said, like my job is very individual based. I mean, I see patients in their rooms, and but thinking of that in terms of, they're all patients at the end of the day, and how I, really try to treat them all the same, and that they're there for their healthcare, they're there to, feel better basically, but like that we ask all the same questions, we do all the same things, but understanding that they do still have their individuality and that all of them come with different experiences. So for my own bias, just going in there, not really having any idea, who these people are until I meet them is actually really helpful. Because then I can, as I meet them, of course, I'm going to create my bias. But for the most part, I just start off with like a very blank slate of it all. So it's very helpful in terms of, not having all of these judgments going in there, not having really any idea, just meeting the person for who they are and hearing their story.
Like kind of meeting them where they are instead of like
Exactly.
having expectations. Like, is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And there are times where I know like what their medical condition is and what's going on with them, but I mean, we're there to help guide them in that, but in the sense of how can we help with this at home? Like what can we do to make you successful in your home life? And whatever that looks like, we want that to be successful. So
Yeah. And what do you guys think are some just like recruitment strategies that you even maybe would use when working in a practicum agency? Not so much just working in a group setting, but like, you know, why come to your practicum, I suppose.
I guess maybe talking about the benefits of what like the group work can do, and you know the community that you're building in that group work, and how it's been beneficial to the people that are in it, and that people of kind of that same background and idea that need that extra support, and what that can benefit them in the long run as well.
All right, does anyone else want to chime in? With no pressure though. If we're good, we can move on. All right, I will just take that as moving on to the next slide.
All right, yeah, so the conclusion.
Mhm.
I think we had a nice conclusion on the previous slide, but here we go. The Parents Beyond Oceans curriculum focuses on cultural competency, group work, social support, and strength resilience-based perspective to obviously improve the community of these people. Evaluation of the Parents Beyond Oceans shows improvements in stress, immigration, trauma, perspectives of immigration experiences and social identities, and effective parenting and grandparenting, building community. Limitations of the study include limited focus on long-term impact, limited comprehension of written Chinese, that's a big one, majority of participants being women, limited sample size, limited demographic information collected, potential bias in results, a lack of consideration of intergroup variation, and an unvalidated scale. Despite these limitations, right, the Parents Beyond Oceans has continued to make a significant impact in Sunset Park with plans to replicate and expand the program into other Chinese immigrant populations. Obviously, not just in New York, but in other areas as well.
All right, and this is our works cited page. And then I'll briefly also show you the works cited page for all our art references. Just, that was an extensive art reference list. So, all right, that pretty much sums everything up. So thank you guys for watching our presentation. I will go ahead and attempt to end the recording real quick.